Welcome everyone to this video on Prospero financial reporting, budgeting, and analysis. And today's recording is going to focus on budgeting from the end user viewpoint. Let me start off with just a little bit about our company. We started our company back in 2009. We have always focused on financial reporting and budgeting software solutions. Before we started this company, were with Microsoft and FRX Software Corporation and Great Plains Software, and we were handling their financial reporting and budgeting software solutions, namely Management Reporter, Microsoft Forecaster, and Microsoft FRX. And while we still support those applications, we started building Prospero pretty much as soon as we started this company. We rolled Prospero out first with financial reporting, and then we added budgeting to it very quickly after that. And it is our all-in-one software solution for financial reporting, budgeting, and analysis. I have a few high-level bullet points I want to mention before I actually jump into Prospero with you. First, I want to make sure everybody understands that this is your financial reporting and budgeting software solution for all of your financial statements, budgets, forecasts as an easy all-in-one application to use. We do sell these separately. You can buy reporting all by itself. You can buy budgeting all by itself. But they work all the even better with everything combined. For all the data inside Prospero, we've got dynamic drill down through the reports to account level and transaction level details. Any report data that you create reports for, you've got interactive charts and graphs, which also include the dynamic drill down. We have built-in templates for HR and capital budgeting. And if you are currently a user of Management Reporter, FRX, or Forecaster, we have a migration option to help you copy your setup from those applications over to Prospero to get you up and running very quickly, saving you a lot of time and a lot of effort. I'm going to take us here from this PowerPoint slide deck over to Prospero, and we'll just jump right in. So on my screen, I am looking at the quick launch window for Prospero, and this is tailored to each individual user. On the left hand side, I've got several tiles with different reports that this user might use most often. Right here in the middle, I've got a tile for the current budget that this user should be working on for our budget 2023. And I'll just click this tile one time to bring up the prompt window so that this user can select what company they're going to budget for. We'll budget for company 1, that's our US company, what location, 4100 Denver Services, and department 100, which is our administration department. They can type these numbers into each one of these fields. There's also lookup buttons for any of these as well. And this would be tailored to your chart of accounts. You know, if you don't have location as a part of your chart of accounts, you won't see it in this pop-up box here as a prompt. Also, your individual users, they will only be able to access the company, location, and departments that we have given them access to. So they will not have access to anything we have not given them authority to do the budget for. And that includes for all the reporting as well. They won't be able to run reports for any companies, locations, or departments that they have not been granted access. Let me go ahead and open up this input screen for us, and I'll give you a tour of how the individual user would change their budget balances. So I'm looking at the main input tab for this particular budget. I see right at the top here, it's for our year 2023. The company 1, 4100 for our location and 100 for our department. Our columns has count numbers on the left hand side, description column, and our January through December columns, year-to-date balances, and also we have comparisons on this input screen for prior year actuals and a dollar variance and a percent variance for comparisons here. When you build this for your individual budget managers, you can have these columns in any order that you need these. If you need a fiscal company, that's fine as well. If you don't care about prior year actuals, that's fine. We can take those away. If you need 2 years of actuals for comparison, we can add those as well. The list of accounts here going down the left hand side, that is tailored for each individual budget manager. It should be just the accounts they need to see for the balances and for their input. I've got a section for salaries, benefits and taxes, supplies and services, capital expenses, and there's many more accounts that this particular combination has available for budgeting. The color coding here, I've got several account rows that are in gray. Those are locked from input. These are dollar variances that are dollar balances that are actually calculated from other areas inside Prospero. So all of the salaries, benefits, and taxes that are in gray here would be calculated on our human resource tab at the top here. Our depreciation and for new assets will be calculated on the capital tab at the top, and we'll look at both of those in just a little bit. For the main input, it's easy for your budget managers to come onto this page here and type in balances. They can copy and paste these balances. They can highlight certain columns and spread those balances across those columns. They can copy and paste from Excel spreadsheets back over into here as long as the columns line up correctly with the account numbers and everything. Um, we also have options for your budget managers to add, in addition to just balances, they can add notes to your input screens as well here. So for any row that's available for input, I can click one time on that row and right click and select annotate. That brings up a pop-up box for any notes that we want to add to this particular input screen. Just type in our notes, click OK to add that to that row. That will add a little blue square on the left hand side. If I put my cursor over that blue square, it pops up, shows me the notes that I just added. And there's also an annotation panel on the right hand side of the screen. It's hidden now, but if I take my cursor and just hover over the right hand side for annotations, that'll slide out. It'll show me the text that I added, my user ID, and the date and time I added that text. And any other user that has access to this particular input screen can see my notes, and they can add their notes to that row as well. So a great option there for adding more detail in the budgeting process. Another way that you can add greater detail to your budget process is by adding line item details to an account row. So instead of just typing in a balance for any individual account rows here, I can expand a row. I already have two rows that have line item details added to them: tuition reimbursement. I know it has line item details because there's a plus icon at left hand margin. Same thing for our advertising account below. So if I click that plus icon once, that opens up the line item details for that particular row. I can see I've got tuition reimbursements for 2 employees, the dollar amounts for each month, and those add up to the account row right above it. Same thing for advertising. I'll open that row. I'll see all of the individual entries and balances that have been added. Now your individual budget managers, they can right click on these account rows and add additional rows of line item details. Type over the label that pops up there and then type in the balances for that new entry. They can do all that without asking the administrator to add any rows for them, and it does not mess up the consolidation in the save process. So for the main input tab, which may be the only tab for input this particular budget manager needs, they can make their changes here and click the save icon at the very top left here, and that will store all their changes, their notes, and line item details in the budget for this particular company, location, and department. Now I do have two other input tabs here at the top, so before I save all this, let me look at human resources with you next. So human resources is one tab here for this particular company, location, and department, and every row here is a different employee for this budget manager. And this budget manager can go through, make sure that all the current employees are listed, verify that we've got their start period and end periods correct. Some employees may not intend to work the entire year next year. We have the annual pay rates for these employees, and we also have hourly rates for our hourly employees. Your budget manager can go through here making changes to start period, end period, the pay rates. We can do pay increases for these employees. Let's say a 3% pay increase for this person, and that takes effect in period 5, and that new rate will pop up there for us. We can handle bonuses as a percentage of their earnings or as a fixed dollar amount for these employees as well. And we can also handle things like commissions and overtime for these employees too. All the details here on the Human Resource tab are easy for your budget manager to make changes to. They can add new hires for next year as well. And all this gets saved as soon as they click the save button up top. And it recalculates the wages, taxes, and benefits for all these employees. Very similar is the capital tab. So for adding new assets for this particular budget manager's um, budget, they'll just go in here, add a new row, type in the description for that new asset or group of assets, pick what type this is going to represent, uh, specify the purchase date and when to start depreciation expense, how many of these items are in this particular row. This one has four. The individual cost per item, 5,000, and then Prospero uses these entries here to post the cost to the cost account and project depreciation expense as well. Now, both of these tabs here, the human resources and the capital tab, those are optional. Not all clients will set those tabs up, but they are an easy setup process and easy for your budget managers to use during the budget process. And if you have some budget managers that should see HR and capital and others that should not, don't worry. If they should not have access to these two tabs here, they will not even see these tabs at the top. Now, as I go through the budget changes here, make all the entries that they need to do for this main input screen and HR and capital, and they're finished with these changes, they can click the save icon at the very top of the screen here. That will save all these changes in Prospero's budget. And it's all going into one SQL database that everybody at your company would use for budgeting and for financial reporting if you did that piece as well. And it's consolidated as soon as they click the save button, and it's available for reports again. And those reports can be for this budget, as well as comparing it to prior year actuals, current actuals, the prior budget, prior forecast, or any other data set that we have inside Prospero. All the changes here, we track history for all the changes. So if you click one time on any row here and go to the history icon up top, we will track any changes to that row for us. And this also tracks the user ID that made the change, the date and time it was changed, and the account balances. So easy to track any changes in the budget process for any of your budget managers. Now, looking at this input screen here, this is for one particular location and department with a certain set of account numbers, calculations, and such here. But if you can make one template that everybody shares with the same list of accounts, the same calculations, that's awesome. A lot less maintenance for the budget administrator. But if you do need a separate input screen with different accounts and different calculations, that's fine as well. For an example, let me just go to the top here and click reopen input, and I'm going to switch from our administration department to our sales department. And this will have a different layout for us. We are using this input template for tracking our revenue, cost of goods sold, and any other related accounts here. And this is using some budget accounts that we just have inside Prospero. These account numbers are not inside our general ledger. So this first row for units, we made up a budget code called Z101, and that is being multiplied times the price per unit for budget account Z102 to come up with the revenue for motors and cost of goods sold and any other related balances. So easy to make separate templates for separate purposes inside Prospero. And again, your budget manager would make these changes here, click the save button, everything goes back into Prospero's SQL database. It's consolidated right away and available for reports right away. And speaking of reports, I'll go back to Quick Launch with you. I've got a tile here for an income statement comparing our current budget that we're working on to prior year actuals. So if I click this tile once, it brings up the prompt window for this report. I can run it for whatever company, location, department I want to run this for, and just quickly check the year and the period I'm running it for, and click OK to actually pull all those balances together. Now, the reporting for this budget process, I've got our income statement, revenue through net income. I've got the current budget that we're working on, budget 2023. I have our prior year actuals, actuals 22, and we also have a dollar variance and a percent variance for comparisons. So, an easy way to track the progress as you're going through all the changes to the budget numbers. This report updates itself anytime someone clicks the save button on their input screens. And all the reports inside Prospero, even if you don't buy the integration to your GL, if you just have the budgeting piece of Prospero, you still have reporting for the budget numbers and whatever other balances you have imported or that are if you integrate from your GL as well. We have drill down for all these rows here. So if I double click on the sales row, this will open up a new tab here, and it's drilling down through the account numbers for all of our actuals and our budget numbers. Now the analysis is easy to change for these balances here. If I wanted not to drill down to the account numbers directly, if I wanted to have it summarized, say by location, that's an easy step inside Prospero. I'll just go back to the first page of the report, click change drill down order, and let's say location, drag that to the top of this window. And now if I double click on the sales row, instead of the account level detail, these are summarized by locations. So easy to analyze that data and see where all these balances are coming from. And any report data you've got inside Prospero that's available to view this data in the numeric layout as well as in charts and graphs. So if I take the icon up top that says display as chart, I'll just click that once. I've got a chart comparing my net revenue to my total expenses as a bar chart. So that data just regroups itself. The top two bars here are for budget 2023. The blue is for the net revenue. The red is for total expenses for budget. These two are compared to actuals for 2022. Again, the blue net revenue, the red total expenses. So easy to look at any data inside Prospero in a numeric format or right here in your charts and graphs. So that was a quick overview of the budgeting process inside Prospero. We looked at the input screen for the main input tab for the main accounts, notes, line item details. We also looked at the input screen for human resources for calculating all of your employees for wages, taxes, and benefits, and the capital tab for budgeting the cost of new assets and projecting depreciation expenses for those assets. We looked at a different template, budgeting for revenue and cost of goods sold. Everything is consolidated and available for reports as soon as they click the save icon on the input screens. We looked at the income statement for comparing our new budget to our prior year actuals. We looked at the drill down for those rows and re-summarizing the data in that drill down, and looking at that data in the charts and graph views here. So those are just some of the high points for budgeting inside Prospero. One slide left before I close out of the video here with you. Just want to look at the next steps for you if you're interested in Prospero for budgeting, or if you're looking at financial reporting package or both combined. So just send us an email at info@msxgroup.com. We'd be glad to set you up with a private demo so you can ask us any questions as we go through the demo with you, and we can also set you up with a free 30-day trial site. We can use our demo data in that trial site, or we can even use your GL data, your own chart of accounts, your own balances for that if you'd like to as well, and provide you with a no obligation quote for Prospero. All right, thank you so much for joining me on this video. You've got our email there right there on the screen, and we hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.